Hello, friends, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man sitting next to me has the world's largest collection of potato peelers, and his name is Mike Roth.
There's more than one way to skin a potato. There really is. And I'd like to open up the show not just to our friends, but our enemies, too.
Yeah?
Thanks for watching.
And thank you. Hey, if you hate watch, that's just as good. Just make sure you're watching.
Yes.
I don't care if you talk about how dumb we are, how bad we look.
Well...
Look at that guy's hair. He looks like an idiot.
Yeah, just don't do it on our website.
Yeah,
be nice.
yeah,
be nice.
exactly.
We're sensitive.
We'll give you a chance to chat with us more at the end of the show. I'm going to give you a little something, but that's a teaser.
I feel pretty teased.
I know. But this week we have a few movies to talk about on the marquee, and the first one is a movie that I went and saw, sir. So just hold your horses.
All right.
The first one I saw is The Case for Christ from director John Gunn. Stars Mike Vogel as Lee Strobel. This is based on a true story. Lee Strobel was a reporter and writer and legal editor for the Chicago Tribune back in the 70s, 80s. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy his big claim to fame was he broke the Ford Pinto story that made...
the car?
Yes, the fact that they would blow up.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the guy whose investigation led to the downfall of the Ford Pinto.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just thought it was bad marketing.
Yeah, that too. But he's a guy who, obviously, because he is the guy he is, he believes in facts and that they are the only way to the truth. He and his wife, Leslie, played by Erica Christensen, have a momentary traumatic event with their daughter. And thankfully, a nurse is in the restaurant when something happens to their daughter, saves her life. And this nurse begins introducing his wife to Christ. And Lee is a vehement atheist. And so as he sees his wife starting to believe in Christ, he begins building a case via facts to convince his wife that she's wrong.
And there's the title.
Yes. And so he starts off, he goes right for the jugular, and he starts with, I'm going to disprove the resurrection, because if there's no resurrection, the rest of it all falls apart. So he goes out and starts speaking with experts in the field, scientists, scholars, theologians, all kinds of people to try and glean facts to build his case. And he's talks to a bunch of people about the authentication of the New Testament. That's a big part of this movie is how authentic the New Testament is. And through it, he's told that the New Testament is the most authenticated manuscript ever made. Oh. And that gets him thinking a little bit. Through his investigation, he's reminded many times to separate his opinions and feelings from the case that he's trying to investigate. Don't look just for the facts to support your case, but in totality. And along the same time, we have two parallels going on. As he's investigating and trying to build these facts, we cut to his wife, who is studying the Bible and learning more. And then there's another parallel that runs through the movie where he is also investigating a purported cop killer. And his investigation and story ends up putting this guy in prison and ruining his life. May or may not be right about his facts on this guy. It's a parallel to the whole story. But basically, the big thing is his constant belittling of her almost for her beliefs leads to a ton of discord in the family, as you could imagine. And we have Faye Dunaway in here. We have Robert Forster, a couple actors I really enjoy. And it's really a whole thing about how it's in the title. He's building his case, and you can only guess what happens at the end, Mike.
I'm guessing he proves his... no, he disproves. Actually...
he becomes a believer.
There we go, yeah.
He becomes a believer. He puts all the facts together, and he says, the facts are overwhelming. I believe. And so this is the story of Lee Strobel, who has gone on to become a huge minister and written dozens of books on the subject. As it is the Easter season, we get our faith-based movies. Mm-hmm. And this one, I think, is the most well-written one that we've gotten yet.
Okay.
It leaves out all of that persecution paranoia that really plagues a lot of these faith-based movies. Mm-hmm. it really does not have the heavy-handed message that is just so prevalent in these films that just turns you away.
Yeah.
It's well written. I mean, like I said, it's based on a true story. It's really long. It's too long. It's almost 2 hours. It's longer than Star Wars. I mean, it's a long movie, and there's chunks of it where it's just kind of going over the same thing over and over. You could have cut 20 out of this easily.
Okay.
Made it more concise. But I was actually really impressed by it. As these movies go, I think this is probably the high end of the faith-based movies that we've been getting in recent years, as they've kind of really tried to make them more Hollywood movies.
Yeah, I've been pretty disappointed.
I think Risen last year was a really good one.
Risen was all right. I think cinematically I had some problems with it, but I liked the wardrobe, and I did like the pacing of the movie and stuff like that.
Built characters. This movie did a good job of really, you knew who these people were. It did a good job of really fleshing out who they're not just caricatures of people. You know, they were rounded, they were flawed, and I liked it. I think this is what, if you're making faith-based movies, I think this is the end that you need to strive for, as opposed to, let's put the heavy-handed message, and if you sin, you're just a bad guy.
Do you think they are going to go this direction?
I mean, I think it's been building that way. I mean, I think every year we've had a little bit better, a baby step up. I mean, they were pretty bad. I think Risen was good. There was a couple of decent ones last year. I think this one was better.
You had that little boy. Was that 2 years ago, or was that last year? That was
a couple years ago.
Yeah. That one.
So like I say, I think it's progressing. And I think this is. I mean, they got good actors in here to go along with it. And so ultimately, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it had a good message and it had a good story. So.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
What are you gonna do? What do you have? What great movie did you have this week?
Oh boy, this one is all mine apparently.
Yes, it is.
Smurfs: The Lost Village, directed by Kelly Ashbury. This is a reboot. They had a Smurf franchise. Smurfs 2 was the last one they did back in 2013, but it failed so miserably they decided, let's try it again. It's not because it's Smurfs, it's because people just didn't get how deep it was.
It's a different style animation even.
Yeah, the last one, it was a mixture of CG and real. Mm-hmm. This one is completely CG, and they really did a good job with their colors and their 3D. And
things are blue.
And I mean, it's really in your face bright. They dialed up that contrast a lot on this one. What we have is a story of Smurfette. All the Smurfs in Smurf Village, they have their thing that makes them special. Clumsy is clumsy, Brainy is smart. There's a Smurf that chews on a table, and that's his thing. But Smurfette, and all the other Smurfs agree, there's nothing special about her.
Oh.
Yeah, she feels a little bad about it. The other side story would be Gargamel. Again, he's the nemesis of Smurfs. If you know anything about Smurfs, you know Gargamel wants to capture the Smurfs. In the original cartoon, it was to make gold. In this one, it is to harness this power of all the Smurfs so he can be this great wizard with beautiful hair. And him and Azrael are always looking for the Smurfs and cannot find them.
Bumbling.
Well, the Smurfs decide they found another Smurf, kinda. He was kind of going blah, 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 and Smurfette noticed it, and then it went through a wall into the Forbidden Forest. And one thing you know about a Forbidden Forest is you don't go into a Forbidden Forest, it is forbidden. Papa Smurf gets really angry that they're even thinking about it, grounds them, so Smurfette and her bestest friends, Clumsy, Hefty, and Brainy, all decide they're going to just not listen to Papa Smurf and go to the other side of the wall to find the other Smurfs. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not a big fan of the Smurfs. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, I did not like Smurfs. Smurfs took up a lot of airtime on network television. I really didn't care for it.
I was more of a Snorks guy myself.
Snorks was better, but so going into this movie, I'm not really excited. I'm not looking for the nostalgia because really the basis of Smurfs is really pretty just lame.
Were they doing the typical Smurf talk?
Well, yeah, they were doing the Smurf talk where you throw in Smurf every once in a while. It's the same jokes of, since every Smurf has a personality, you have to just play that joke over and over and over again. I was heavily annoyed by this movie. The colors were great, the 3D was great, but it's constant yelling, it's constant stale, lame jokes that weren't even funny back in the 80s. Sometimes they would copy other jokes that I saw from Trolls or previous animations that were good. This one, it felt like it was copying. And yeah, I seen the trailer, and in the trailer, there's a scene where Brainy Smurf is in a flower and he's just screaming over and over again. The only joy I had of this movie was seeing that clip and knowing that's the last time I'll ever have to hear him scream. This whole movie is nothing but Smurfs screaming at whatever predicament they have, and lots of jokes that were just boring. Full disclosure, I left this early. I
Failed.
I really thought I was going to die from either boredom or anxiety, and that is just, it's two different emotions you shouldn't be having at the same time. By the time they found the tribe of Smurfs, spoiler alert, all females, I'm sure Smurfette found out that she was special, even though she's the only one who could grow hair. I think, you know, that's something special. She could have been Harry Smurf, whatever. Some people I've been seeing online have been complaining that this is a little sexist. I think the biggest part of it is it's just boring and annoying.
Oof, that's bad.
And I gave this movie a 0.5. I mean,
Yikes!
Don't see this movie. Let the franchise dead. It was dead in 13. Let it die in 17.
And it seems like people are. They're just going to see Boss Baby again when given
Excellent.
the choice.
Good.
Yeah.
Good thinking, people.
Nice. I'm glad I left this one to you.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm not.
Nice job. The next movie we have on the marquee is a movie that you and I both saw. It is actually coming out this upcoming weekend. We got a little sneak preview of it.
Woohoo!
And it is a movie called Gifted from director Mark Webb. It stars Chris Evans as Frank. Frank is a man who has taken in his niece, Mary, played by McKenna Grace. Mary is a brilliant young girl, a true math genius. And Frank, as her uncle, is taking care of her after her mother's suicide. His sister committed suicide, left Mary with him. And he's faced with the dilemma to put her into an advanced school or to try giving her a quote-unquote normal childhood. He doesn't want her to feel different. He you know, other people around her want to see her excel to the height of her ability, but he really wants her to be a normal child while she can, and not just get stuck in this just being a brain for people. This leads to a custody battle between he and his mother, Evelyn, played by Lindsay Duncan, and she is very British and very very proper, and she wants Mary. She wants custody of Mary, and she wants to drive Mary like she did her daughter, Mary's mother, and get her into think tanks and really have her excel with her math skills. And it's a tough dilemma, because she is a rare mind.
And they point that out in this movie. She's just not someone who's seeking fame. She tells the audience, hey, this girl is one in a million, and she can solve problems that may never be solved. This is a gift to the world, not just to us. We can't just have her sit around and do nothing and waste her gift.
And I thought that was very well represented.
Yes.
And you know, you can. I don't think they really pushed you to pick sides. There were moments where you're like, "Oh, that's evil," but there's, you know, there is a real dilemma, and I thought that they represented that well with Chris Evans' character. That he was really torn, and he thought he was doing the right thing, but he wasn't sure.
Yeah,
and he was reluctant at times of his choice.
And they did a good job at showing both sides where you could have gone either way for the child's well-being. You know, they talked about how children that are this gifted don't do that well in a system that kind of holds them back, and that they become even worse if you don't let them launch off to their full potential.
Exactly. Yeah, and McKenna Grace, I thought, was incredible.
Fantastic.
Really, really great. She played Mary with this adult sense of snarkiness. Yeah. But also, she had this sense of right and wrong, but she also had the childlike way of not knowing how to handle things. And she was wise beyond her years, but she was still childlike. She was very much the Goodwill Hunting scenario in this movie of the math genius that nobody quite was sure what to do with. And I really liked her, and I liked her chemistry with Chris Evans.
Same here.
There was some really great moments. The one that stands out to me is there's a scene of them in front of a sunset, and it's basically their silhouette. And she's being a child. She's climbing on him and just asking him about things about life, and he's trying his best to answer her, but he knows he's not as smart as her, and he's trying his best to just be there for her. And it's a beautifully shot scene in front of the sunset, and it just shows their relationship in a capsule.
That scene right there was the turning moment for me. You are correct. That is a beautiful scene. The shot alone, the cinematography of that shot is absolutely gorgeous. The dialogue that they were having, the chemistry between them, it did not feel like anyone was acting. It felt like you were getting a snapshot of someone's real life.
Yeah.
And I thought that was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, that scene made me want to go home and hug my daughter. I mean, and there were moments in this movie as the father of a daughter, it kind of tore me up in a couple of scenes in this movie. Jenny Slate was also in this movie, she came from SNL and kind of washed out there and has been doing these different roles recently, and I've really liked. She was the teacher Bonnie, and I liked how she played Bonnie as someone who wanted to challenge Mary and took on the challenge herself to learn more about how to help Mary, and she wasn't just the prototypical teacher. And I liked the majority of what her character was as the teacher who's like, holy cow, I've got something here. I want to see if I can do something to help her.
We also had Octavia Spencer who played the neighbor who would watch Mary every once in a while, and Mary considered her best friend.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed their chemistry. I thought that was really good. I'd like to see Octavia Spencer do something outside of the role. It
felt like her niche right there.
Yeah, this is Octavia Spencer. This is what
But if you're going to get someone to do it, might as well get her, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She's pretty good at it.
Yeah, she is excellent at it.
I liked everyone in the cast. Evelyn was great. She had a great monologue because there is a good chunk of this movie that is a court case, the custody case. We're in the courtroom setting. She had a great monologue where she basically put everyone in their place. She had the "you need me on that wall" type speech.
I found the lawyers. Chris Evans' lawyer, I thought played his character good. The other lawyer felt like he was acting.
He was a stereotypical.
Yeah, it was
that guy lawyer.
Quite dry and quite. You just learned your lines an hour ago.
Yeah,
but luckily he wasn't a huge part of the movie. He just was in the movie.
I think the big takeaway was McKenna Grace was phenomenal.
Yeah,
she had some killer reactions in this, and Fred the One-Eyed Cat was a constant source of comedy.
And gave the story a little bit of push. He came in and out. I just want to talk a little bit about what I didn't like in the movie.
Go for it.
Right before the sunset scene, it really felt like this movie wanted to be an art house and was falling into all these cliches of what happens with an art house. There was some dialogue that I thought was absolutely terrible. There is the shaky cam thing, which is annoying, but this one was shaky cam on steroids.
And there were a lot of complaints after the movie from people I heard complaining about specifically a couple of scenes where it was really noticeable.
And how I feel like it happened is whoever decided to start shooting, I noticed these shaky cams were all in one area. This is all something that was shot in one day. I think they wanted to go in that direction, but when it got down to editing or taking a look at the footage is what they did, they were like, whoa.
Look at the dailies and go, that was bad.
We're making people seasick with this, and also with the soft filters and stuff like that. It was just extremely cliche of what people think a manufactured art house movie was. That was disappointing, and it took me a while to get over that. It wasn't until the sunset scene came in where I was able to forgive that first part. But I was getting a little steamed, actually, from the amount of shakiness.
That's
and there
fair.
wasn't a reason for it. There really wasn't.
Exactly.
It was just so we could say, oh, look at us, we're being creative. But it's not creative anymore.
It was distracting for sure as the camera kind of bounced up. And you could feel the guy taking steps as he, with the camera.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Even when he was still, he was just
feel
like,
his
well,
pulse.
We can't do this. We're going to have to. Yeah,
I didn't like that.
Unless he shot it from maybe a mile away and maybe, little things
Tight
like
zoom.
that. Yeah.
Well, ultimately, what did you give Gifted?
I gave it a 3.5. It would have been higher if I didn't have such an issue with the first, 15 minutes of it? Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5. I thought it was really enjoyable, surprisingly enjoyable.
Yeah,
Better than I thought it would be.
And it did have a little twist at the end that I wasn't expecting, and I think people should watch this.
And
I definitely do.
I like this McKenna Grace. I've seen her in 2 movies. I saw her in this, and then Mr. Church last year with Eddie Murphy, and she was great in that.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully she just isn't a child star. Hopefully she'll keep on going with
I
her
hope
career.
so. She was very good. What's the last movie we have on the marquee, sir?
Last one, the big one.
Go for it.
The Going in Style. Director Zach Braff, if you remember him from Scrubs. Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin all team up as retirees that are having problems. Their company is merging, and part of that merger is a freeze on all pensions. And these guys were not really doing well in the first place. Fixed incomes, increasing prices. It's tough. It's really tough to be old. It is.
Yeah.
And Michael Caine's about to lose his house.
Right.
So he gets involved, well, not involved, but he witnesses a bank robbery at the bank he goes to. And he's thinking, what is the worst that can happen? Really? I mean, if I get thrown in jail, I will actually have a roof over my head and 3 meals a day, and I'm old. I can't afford.
Or I stay here and they take my house.
Exactly. The bank, of course, gives him no help. So he teams up with his friends, Albert and Willie. Willie played by Morgan Freeman, Alan Arkin, Arkin. And they start the motion of planning this heist. And there is a lot of big stars in here. We also have John Ortez.
Oh, yeah, the ex-con.
As the ex-con, Jesus. We have Matt Dillon as the...
That's right, I forgot about him.
Not giving up, that he's going to crack this case kind of thing. He knows something's going on.
We see Anne Margaret right here.
Anne Margaret, who was...
Ageless, man.
Yeah, she really hasn't changed
She's
much
75, and she doesn't look any different from Grumpy Old Man, and that was 20-something years ago.
She really didn't look too different from when she was considered a...
When she was with Elvis.
Yeah, back in the 60s. Yeah, and we also had Kenan Thompson in there as the...
and you got this guy right here.
Christopher Lloyd. How could I forget to say him? I love Christopher Lloyd.
He was great in this.
I loved Taxi when I was a kid, and I was a little kid.
And this is like an old Jim Ignatowski in this movie.
Yeah. It's like, what happened if the guy from Taxi just got old? What is he now? Oh, he's forgetful. He's making drug references. He was actually, it was great to see him in this movie. Now let's talk about what we didn't like the movie.
Well, yeah. So this is very much a hell or high water scenario. They're going to rob the bank that's screwing them.
Yeah.
Right? They're only going to take what they're owed from their pensions.
Yep.
So we have to hammer home that these are super altruistic bank robbers. We're the good guys. We are squeaky clean. There's no rough edges on these guys.
Yep.
And I thought they just hammered the same point way too much. I love all 3 of these actors. Alan Arkin is one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely love him.
I love the chemistry that Alan Arkin had with Morgan Freeman. They actually lived together,
roommates.
and it felt like a couple. It really did.
Yeah, there was just, I don't know, this movie was a little too syrupy sweet. Zach Braff has yet to make a complete movie for me.
Yeah.
There's an unbelievable event in the final act that kind of, it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
It's really sweet, but horribly unlikely.
Yeah.
I like the bank robbery. I like the events around that as they explain things. But it felt like it took forever. It took an hour to get to that point. You knew where this movie was going from the beginning.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what was going to happen in this movie. And it's like, okay, let's get to it. Let's do it. Stop talking about robbing the bank.
I also don't like the younger generation jokes where I know it happens in every single one of these movies that are based around senior citizens doing stuff. They have to make fun of earlier generations, but it's stale. I've seen that kind of stuff before, and it just makes me kind of feel like this is not a movie for me. And that doesn't make a good movie. A good movie is supposed to be for everyone, not just a select audience.
For me, it felt like the parts were better than the sum total. Like, I liked each performance, but the sum total of the movie was kind of lacking. It just felt like he had all of these great things Zach Braff did, and he didn't quite know how to craft a good movie around them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, ultimately, I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars.
I give it exact same number, 2.5.
So it's the right score then.
It is. We got to stop agreeing like this. It's getting creepy.
The last thing we have is, the last movie we have to talk about is taking a flashback. Explain quickly why we have the throwback that we do.
Oh, well, we have a comic that went to a television show that went to a movie.
And it also has Christopher Lloyd in it.
And you're right. Both of them have Christopher. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we have The Addams Family, originally written by Charles Addams for the New Yorker magazine. Thank you. I was going to say a newspaper, but it definitely isn't. We have Angela Houston plays Morticia Addams and Raul Julia.
Oh, I love Raul
playing
Julia.
Gomez Addams. It is a fantastic adaptation of what the comics used to be, mixed in with a little bit of the television show. This is like one of my favorite movies from the 90s.
It's one of the best adaptations of a TV series to movies that I can think of. I love the story. Con artists are trying to pass off a fake Uncle Fester. That's your Christopher Lloyd. They're going after the Addams Family fortune.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's witty. It holds up.
And you don't know it until after you research it, which, of course, I did. They took a lot of scenes from the comic and the television show, and once you see it all together, it's like, wow. When they made this, it felt genius. It really did.
Raul Julia was great as Gomez.
And I loved the sequel, too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Raul had to pass away, and that's pretty much how he felt.
I really dig these movies, man.
Yeah,
they're a lot of fun.
Right after he passed away, the franchise pretty much fell, and I don't think they can recreate this any better.
And this was kind of our introduction to Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams.
Yeah,
this was the first thing I remember seeing her in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Addams Family's a lot of fun. Go watch both of them.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah, don't see the third one.
And listen to the MC Hammer song, The Addams Family. That's a great time, too.
Yeah, especially when it gets stuck in your head all week.
I'm going to jam to that when I go home. So Addams Family is a throwback. Let's take a look ahead at what is coming out the weekend of April 21st. We have 5 movies on the marquee that weekend, sir. The first one we have is Born in China, the new Disney World one about panda bears.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm usually the guy who sees all those.
They've been pretty good.
Yeah.
The second one is The Promise. This is a much maligned movie. It is a love triangle set during World War I that involves Christian Bale and Oscar Isaac, and has been getting terrible reviews, but we'll see.
All right.
The next one is Phoenix Forgotten. This is one for you. You're going to see this one. This is Teens Go Missing. It is a found footage movie about some teens that went missing.
On.
It's all yours. We have Unforgettable. Katherine Heigl tormenting Rosario Dawson, who has married her ex-husband, and Katherine Heigl is going to stalk her.
Yeah, that looks terrible.
Hand that rocks the cradle style.
Yeah, that doesn't look good.
And last but not least, we have Free Fire, which is a shootout in a warehouse with all kinds of people. Charlize Copley, Brie Larson, Armie Hammer. A deal goes bad in a warehouse, and this entire movie is just a shootout in a warehouse. This trailer looks incredible.
Well, hopefully that one's a good one.
I hope so. So that is the list of movies coming out April 21st. Before we leave you, we want to thank our sponsor, of course, Marcus Theaters Palace. Thank you for sponsoring our show. We always appreciate that. Next week, we're going to be talking about, we have one movie on the marquee next week. So we're going to be talking about The Fate of the Furious. But we are also going to be doing our list of our top 5 favorite action stars. And we want your feedback. This is the callback that I was talking about. We want your feedback. So if you want to email into this show and let us know who your top 5 favorite action stars of all time are, my list, I told you last night, my list is down to 19 right now. I've narrowed it down to 19.
My list is actually pretty small. So if I could get some people to convince me.
We want your list. There's the email right there if you're listening on the radio. RealReviewsSP@gmail.com. Operators are standing by. Send in your email. We will read it on air next week. RealReviewsSP@gmail.com.
SP is for Sun Prairie.
Yeah. If you want to find more from us, though, on Facebook or Twitter, search @RealReviewsTV. Like us and follow us. We're a good time on there.
Yep.
I promise.
Yeah.
But until next week, do you have something to say?
I just want to... All right.
Look at this.
Until next week. This is our award.
Show. Mike's holding our award. Thank you to Wisconsin Community Media for recognizing us for this award. We love it. But until next week, my name is Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.